This is Season 1, Episode 4 of Twins Discuss. I'm Raquel, a research scientist.
And I'm Raven, a medical professional.
Today, the twins discuss
Twins Part 1.
Listener discretion is advised. This podcast contains graphic explanations of known biological processes that may not be appropriate for some listeners. This podcast was written using information from various sources. It is presented as accurately as possible, though some of what is mentioned is simply speculation. Sources can be found on our social media pages at Twins Discuss Podcast.
So this episode, we are going to discuss the science of twins and how twins basically develop.
Come to be.
What makes twins. We felt like this would be a really cool episode. We actually wanted this to be our pilot, but we just had other episodes in the making at the time. So we decided to kind of throw this in there.
It was kind of and I guess if you're not a twin, you're probably like, this is so obvious, but it's kind of an afterthought to do an episode on twins. And then the more we got to thinking about it, we're like, this is actually going to be many parts.
Because there's a lot to twins. I mean, we can explain the science of it, but then there's actual stories of other twins and what twins go through.
And psychological stories. And
we decided we're going to invite guests who are twins or who are parents of twins or siblings of twins or whatnot to discuss what it's like to be involved in that family dynamic or, to be twins. Because Raquel and I have a very, I don't even know if there's a word for it, significant bond.
We don't talk about it.
We don't talk about it. We're those types of twins.
There.
Yeah, we don't hug. We fist bump.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no one closer to us.
Right.
So we're going to discuss the science behind twins.
Yeah.
All right, so I just want everybody to be aware that a zygote is a fertilized egg. And an ovum is a single egg. An ova is 2 eggs. We good?
So a zygote isn't like a cybernetic goat. Bleat.
No. A zygote is a fertilized egg.
Well, that's not nearly as fun.
I know. A zygote is a fertilized ovum.
Yeah, I don't even like this discussion already. All right, let's go ahead. Ugh, don't do squishy things.
Well, we had to develop in some way.
I know, but I don't remember it.
Neither do I.
Yeah.
Right. So in 2017, 33 out of 1,000 births were twins in the U.S. That's
a lot of twins.
That's a lot of twins. And I couldn't find if they were, IVF babies, or if they were natural like you and I.
Right. And is this just twins, or is this multiples?
Just twins.
Oh my gosh. So there's more if you count all the other multiples.
We could. I'm actually on a twins group on Facebook. And twins of all different ages, and these twins discuss their connections more than anything else. Like one of the weirdest things for us is the possibility of getting married and having children.
Yeah.
I know. So the getting married part, totally cool as long as the significant other understands that, the twin comes first in the relationship. So there is... with my significant other, he's very much aware that Raquel is number one.
Raquel's not very needy or demanding, though, so...
No, Raven is needy and demanding.
Yeah, I could be a number one, and it's like, whatever, odds are she won't call you for anything.
Yep. Even work understands that Raquel is first.
Oh, yeah, I was just in the ER recently, and you left work and just... was right there.
I got things done.
Yes, you did. Just magical. I'd probably be dead without you. Thank you.
You'd still be sitting in the ER right now.
I would still be sitting in the ER right now 3.5 weeks later if it wasn't for you, to be sure.
Yeah. So there are 2 main types of twins. There's identical and there's fraternal.
This is a very important distinction, folks. You need to listen to this. If I get called a fraternal twin one more time, it's like calling my basset hound a beagle. I am going to lose my mind.
So obviously Raquel is very passionate about that as the volume just increased 700 decibels. But she's right. We are monozygotic twins. We are not dizygotic twins.
Okay, you're going to have to clarify that a little bit more. This is truly the difference between identical and fraternal from an egg standpoint.
Yes. So they result from fertilization of identical twins result from the fertilization of one egg that splits into two. All right, get that? One egg that splits into two. They share all the same genes and are the same sex.
Always.
Always, always, always. Dizygotic twins, fraternal twins, result from the fertilization of two eggs in the same pregnancy.
Okay, so you get that. Mom dropped two eggs and they got fertilized.
Yeah, in the same pregnancy.
Right. I don't want to say this the way it's going to sound, but this is kind of how it works in dogs, where you can have, they drop multiple different eggs and they get fertilized. Sometimes they split. Sometimes they're twins in dogs, but in large litters you can't tell. But it's also how one female dog can have a litter of puppies that each puppy has a different father too. So not that people are like this, but they can be.
Actually,
and it's been known to happen.
There's a set of twins that is that way, but we'll get into it. So it's kind of like Raquel and I have a pair of dogs that are sisters. And her dog, Raquel's dog, looks and acts completely different than my dog, but she's
tall, red-haired, curly, leggy. And Raven's dog is shorter hair, shorter build, a little bit stockier.
Yep, and they're from the same litter.
They're from the same litter. They have the same mother, but I'm pretty sure they did not share daddies.
No, they look. You can tell they have the same eyes sometimes. They have some of the same mannerisms, like how my dog sits is a lot like how her dog sits, which is super weird.
They sit real weird.
Yeah, but they share a lot of similarities, but they are not twins.
No.
So
they would be fraternal.
So identical twins, one egg splits from the same pregnancy. Fraternal twins, two eggs fertilized, don't split in the same pregnancy.
Now, you notice that we're not saying that identical twins look just alike or fraternal twins look different, because there are cases where identical twins, even though they share genetics, do not look exactly the same, and there are cases where fraternal twins look very similar. And like the Olsen twins are fraternal. They are not identical. They're two separate eggs.
Which is wild.
But they look so similar that when they were younger, especially, not as much now, but they could have been mistaken as identical twins, but they're not. Yeah, even
Elizabeth Olsen, their sister, looks just like them. It's crazy.
All look so similar. Yeah.
So there are several subsets and types of twins. There are polar body or half identical twins, mirror image twins, which Raquel and I are, conjoined twins, which they thought we would be.
That's truly a fear for people that are pregnant with twins, because a lot of the times they are in some way conjoined.
And we'll get into these types of twins. There's parasitic, semi-identical, which is not the same as half identical. Boy-girl monozygotic. That's right. Remember, monozygotic. Superfetation and superfecundation twins. So we'll actually get into a little bit about what all of these are.
Yeah, you're going to have to, because I only recognize like 4 things off of that whole list. So I'm sure, like everybody else, I also want to know.
This was very educational when I was doing it. I was quite surprised at how many types of, and there are twin specialists. There has to be. And I was like, why? There's only 2 types of twins. Oh no.
Yeah.
There are plenty.
Well, I suppose we are a reproductive abnormality. We're not what's supposed to happen. So if there's already an abnormality that can end up with a normal result, there would be cases where there are abnormalities that end up with abnormal results. So of course there would be a whole class of research on this particular thing.
And I would assume that humans are not meant to have litters.
They're not, but there have been people that have.
And that brings up an interesting case. Now, recently we had that woman over in the Middle Eastern area, I believe, that had the 9 babies.
Yeah.
And Raquel and I were discussing it with some other people. We're like, there is no way that wasn't an IVF situation.
Unless she dropped, let's say she dropped 9 eggs at once and they all got fertilized and they all kept, or she had 5 eggs that split, like 4 split and one of them didn't, or, but the odds of it happening once are, 1 in a million. But
a lot more than that.
Yeah, but to have it happen, let's say 4 times in one pregnancy is a 1 in a billion, no, 8 billion chance, because it's never happened. So she'd be the first person in especially if they all live, in all the living people on this planet right now, to have that happen in recorded history. So I'm curious, I still am, they're not releasing a lot on it, if she had IVF. They say she didn't, and I'm not trying to be a skeptic, it's just so
wild.
It would be so unusual.
There's it's a miracle, and I'm like, yeah, absolutely right it is.
And I'm thinking, I'm not being a skeptic here, but I am like, yeah, hormonal miracle.
It'd be incredible. And, it would be even more remarkable if those if those multiples came out to be all, quote, unquote, normal. If they were all functional, right. If they all developed normally, if they didn't have any development disabilities. I mean, it would be incredible if they were natural and they were that way, because a lot of people who do IVF have multiples have extensive medical care, and so we don't know the cases over there because there's not a lot being released about it.
Yeah, I mean, normally they have a lot of prenatal care, and even if you get pregnant with just twins, much less more than that, you are at such a chance of having complications that they like to keep an eye on. I mean, most twins are born small. I know we were, and in the case of the ones overseas right now, they were 1.5 to 2 pounds each. I mean,
if even, talking,
yeah, really small. I mean, they're weighing you in grams at some point.
Yeah,
small. It's hard to survive.
Yeah,
but they're getting the best medical care you can.
Yeah, Raquel was 5 pounds 10 ounces, and I was
a little chunky.
She compared to me, I was a good 4 pounds 5 ounces.
Yep, but that happens a lot with monozygotic twins. There's one will typically be bigger than the other one. They'll have a larger placental cord, umbilical cord, than the other one will, and that's just how the placenta develops with twins. And it's really scary. Like, some people, I have a friend that's pregnant right now, and she's like, I can feel the kid just turning around and rotating inside, like it's a very active fetus. And I'm like, oh God, no, that's so bad, because you can get wrapped up in your cord. But for twins, it's even more of a fear because there's more cord in there. There's 2 cords.
Well, that's interesting, because you and I are a very distinct subset of twins. We are what 2% of twins are, as long as we're mirror image. We also are what they call monozygotic.
Oh, momos.
Yeah, we're momos. So Raquel and I shared a placenta and an amniotic sac. A lot of twins, identical or fraternal, but we'll go specifically with identical, they either share a placenta or an amniotic sac, and they have separate placentas, or they have separate amniotic sacs with one placenta. They don't share both. And
look at us being special. I didn't know that. Our poor mother.
Yeah. So it's even more of a chance of us getting tangled up in each other's, cords and whatnot. And
see, that's what I was thinking of, because I thought that they were all like that. So we're even more rare.
Yeah.
Oh, well, look at us. Well, thanks, Mom.
Yep. So
I guess I got to blame Dad for some of this too.
Oh, yeah. He takes big credit on us being twins. But yeah, so twins actually somewhat run in our family, but not like twins usually run in families. So if one of the parents is a twin, you're more likely to have multiples. If a grandparent's a twin, you're more likely to have multiples. If your parents are twins, on and on and on and on. If you've already had a set of multiples, you're more likely to have another set of multiples, but they don't know why.
Right.
Because we're understood, but we're not genetically understood. Like, it is fascinating to look at our DNA because they say it's the exact same, right? Because we're split from the same egg. But there have to be specific differences because we are physically
Different.
and emotionally, like, for instance, I have bipolar and Raquel does not have bipolar.
I do not.
So, but we each have a genetic condition called methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase deficiency, MTHFR. And it is, Raquel's not been tested for a lot of this stuff that I've been tested for, or vice versa, because we just assume that if I have it, then she has it.
Yeah, there's no need. And even our geneticists, Raven got tested for MTHFR back in 2009.
Yeah, 9.
And I didn't actually get tested till 2011 because there was no need. We treated me for it, because we knew that she had it. But I ended up having to get tested for a surgery that I was having because we were worried about blood thinners if I needed them and all that. And I had it, and I had the exact same variant C677T that she had, which was no surprise.
It was duh. I mean, as soon as I found out I had it, I told Raquel, and we'd never heard about it. Like, I had no idea what MTHFR was.
It was so new back then, though. I mean, they had just completed the Genome Project in 2004. So we first heard about, like, this particular type of mutation in, like, 2005. So, and you and I were diagnosed, or you were diagnosed with UNI, being what it is, in 2009. So not long after, they were still learning, and they still now are learning. We've learned more about it since then that's helped us. But we had no idea. It's one of those conditions that isn't a problem until it's a problem.
And it was a problem.
It became a big problem.
So our MTHFR likes to manifest itself in depression, weight gain, and blood clots.
Yay!
So that is how our MTHFR manifests.
Or you want to bring up the Momo thing?
Sure, yeah.
I didn't, I know I mentioned it before, but I did not know.
So Momo twins, when I said 2%, I meant 2% that survived to birth. Not 2% that are Momos, because the majority of twins that share amniotic sacs or placentas, and if I'm wrong about this and doctors are listening or whatever, call me back, but this is what I've read, is that most of them are absorbed by the other twin, or they die because of, again, there's cords tangled up or whatever. I mean, most of them do not, or they become stillborn twins. Because all the nutrients is taken by one twin, or the cord thing's a big ordeal.
Well, in our case, I said this off camera when we were taking a break, but I was like, it amazes me constantly that we're even alive, that we're even here, because there were so many opportunities before we were even born for us not to be here. Not from our dad, racing cars, and our mom, rolling around on a mini bike in her youth, and our grandma getting hit by a car, and all these things that, should have kept us from not being here. But just in the womb, I mean, I won't even lie, like, I almost killed you in the womb. When Raven was born, she wasn't breathing. And I blame that on her, actually. So let's take a step back for a second. All right. I'll go ahead and take my part in this. I'll claim my part in this from little me not knowing. But my umbilical cord was huge compared to hers. Like, mine was like a thumb, and yours was kind of like smaller than a pinky of an average person. But so they say that I ate more or whatever. Mine just developed the way that it did. I didn't have anything to do with it. I'm sure I was violent in the womb as well. But I was born quickly. Mom went into labor, and, you know, it was like, 8:30 in the morning, and then by 11:30 something I was born, and then you decided to take a siesta.
I was like, Mama's so warm and safe, and I'm by myself for once, and I just want to absorb this moment for
and it is
2 hours and some change.
2 hours and 17 minutes. And it's incredibly unusual that happens because most twins are 1 minute behind each other, or at the most 4 or 5 minutes. And that's what they expected. And Mom went out of labor. And it was like, okay, cool. We'll wait. And we'll wait a little bit more. And then everybody went and got lunch because it wasn't happening. And then all of a sudden, her heart rate started to drop, and she went into distress, and they were fixing to do a C-section, like roll Mom into the room, do the C-section, and she went into labor again, and Raven was born, and she wasn't breathing because she had stressed her ass out so much, and we should have known this is what life was going to be like, but she stressed herself out so much that she stopped breathing. Now, this is also the same girl. This is probably getting more into this than we need to, but I would eat whatever, and I still will. When I was a baby, you could pop it in my mouth, and I was just mowing it down. Raven would hold it in her cheeks like she was a gerbil and wouldn't swallow it. So I'm not saying how she probably just held her breath in there and was like, whatever.
Yep.
Not that you breathe through air, because you don't.
I think it's also worth saying a little thing about Raquel and I is our daddy would not feed us anything he didn't try first.
Yeah, all the baby food he would try before he fed it to us.
Yeah, we had very involved parents. I guess because we weren't so many chances of us not being here in the first place.
Our parents were great.
Oh, yeah.
So the thing is, Daddy would eat it. He'd be like, this is good. And I'd be like, okay. Like a dog. And Raven would be like, still not good enough. Like, I need
you
to
could turn me upside
up.
down and I still wouldn't swallow or let it out of my mouth.
I know. When she was little, she would have to have two. Like, I would have a pacifier, and I'd be fine with it. And Raven would have to have a pacifier in her mouth that was tied to a string with another pacifier in her hand so she could see what she was sucking on.
I forgot about that.
Like, I didn't need that. I'd be like, what the hell is wrong with her?
And to me, when I was told these stories, they seemed normal. But in actuality, this has helped me a lot in my line of work. Because when I have patients that are, especially when they have mental incapacities or psychological changes like dementia or whatever, they'll be grabbing out at things, and I'll give them a towel or whatnot so they can feel it. And I think it's because I went through a similar thing where I had to be able to feel what I was doing.
Well, everybody learns differently. And in your case, you were both a tactile and visual person, where I was just tactile.
Yeah, I still have a hard time reading something and learning from it. I do better being shown or watching videos and hearing it.
And then doing it. Yeah. No, we play games like that when we go to learn games. And I'm kind of like this when it comes to games. I just skip the directions and just start the game, and we'll learn it as we do it, versus reading the directions and still not knowing what the hell's going on and then having to do it.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. So,
all right, so tell me more about these. Okay, so the classes of twins were, or the types of twins again were,
polar body or half identical, mirror image, conjoined, parasitic, semi-identical, boy-girl monozygotic, superfetation, and superfecundation.
Okay.
So polar body or half identical twins are sesquizygotic twins. I don't ask me to say that again. It's when an egg is released, it can split in two, which is,
identical.
Yes. But the smaller of the two halves is called a polar body. It has everything to grow into a baby if fertilized. However, there is very little cytoplasm, which is also fluid, inside it. So usually it is so small that it doesn't survive. If it does survive, it can be fertilized by one sperm, while the other half is fertilized by another sperm. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Because they come from the same egg, the chromosomes from mom are identical, but they share none from dad.
Oh.
They may or may not be the same sex.
Oh.
This
So-
is very rare because usually the baby doesn't. The second
I was
one,
about to say, they not survive?
yeah, baby B doesn't usually survive because it's so small. And if it does
Right.
survive, they're different genetically because they share the same chromosomes from mom, but not from dad.
It's never good to be missing chromosomes.
Oh, we'll get into that too. There are twins. There's this one set of twins, the boy-girl monozygotic twins. Those are really fascinating. So, mirror image twins happens when one egg splits 7 to 12 days after fertilization instead of during the first week.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, so there's enough formed to kind of give you a base.
At this point, the embryo has developed a right and left side. So when it splits, the twins are mirror image, having, sometimes opposing teeth. Some are right-handed, some are left-handed. One's right, one's left. They have opposing teeth. The bone structures can be slightly separated. I mean, you can look in a mirror and it looks the same, more or less,
Yeah.
just mirror image, just flipped.
And this is, as we mentioned before, this is what Raven and I are. So, and most particular before your stroke, like you had some deficits after your stroke that sort of changed like our lip function, but like I have a slightly droopier eyelid on, and most people do not have perfectly symmetrical faces. So if you think you do, you're wrong. But a slightly droopy left eyelid, or no, right eyelid, and you have a left one. And then, like, if you look at our hands, I have a curved, and remember this if I disappear and y'all find body parts. But I have a curved ring finger on my right hand, and I think yours is on your left.
It is indeed, now that I'm looking.
I know, because we're mirror image. But I don't have that on my other hand. And then our teeth, if you look at the x-rays of our teeth, they're opposites.
Which is how we found out we were a mirror image.
Yeah, our dentist figured it out.
Yep, our dentist pointed it out, and it was like, what?
Bro.
He was like, yeah, y'all's teeth are just fascinating because they're flipped, and we're like, what does that mean? He was like, your mirror image, and we're like, okay, add it to the list.
Like, I know, right down to like our molar structure in like on it's my upper left side. I have this particular twist in my middle molar through the middle of the bifurcated teeth on the inside of the root, and she has that exact same thing on the opposite side in the upper molars.
It
middle
was pretty,
and everything.
It was pretty fascinating because even when we were little, we would develop cavities more or less in the same places on the opposite teeth.
Yep.
So it was.
Yeah. Now, one thing we don't have is that we are both right-handed.
Very much so.
Yeah, but it's funny because your handwriting looks like mom's and mine looks like dad's.
Very much, which is super odd. 'Cause I take a lot from my mom. I'm much more of a feeler, and Raquel is much more of a thinker, and my mom is a feeler, and our dad's a thinker.
Yep.
So it doesn't mean that they don't have emotions. It just means that Raquel's type of personality is a very logical individual. Logic comes before feeling.
Yeah.
Whereas for me,
squishy, soft, and empathetic.
man, it's all about.
How do you feel about this?
Yeah, I was talking to my my boyfriend about this, and I'm like, I have spent most of my life, one way or the other, learning about emotions, human connection, and it's what I write about. It's how I live my entire life. It's how I communicate with people in the field. There's so many different things that I do with human emotion, and how even how I teach, everything is via human emotion.
Mm-hmm. And I'm like, not. Again, to be twins and to be this, we're, as Mom would say, we're polar opposites. Like, it's amazing that we are, but we are. I mean, that's the kind of how a lot of twins are. You will see, at least what I've seen or talked to from other twins, is that one twin has a warmer side and one twin has the colder side of things, or the black and the white, or you're literally split down the middle.
The yin and the yang, and it's to be so incredibly alike, we are so incredibly different. Like, you know, Raquel's husband knows her. Like, they always knew her from the very beginning. There was no fooling him at all.
No, he would never get Raven mixed up with me.
Nope, not even from the beginning.
Appalled at the idea that he would do such a thing.
Yep, and it was the same with my boyfriend. He's like, there's no, like, you two are so incredibly different.
Mm-hmm.
So, now, conjoined twins.
Oh, gosh, bless those people.
Mama thought, well, the doctors thought that Raquel and I, when they finally discovered that she was having twins, which was months into her pregnancy, they thought we were conjoined twins because we were so close together. This is in the 80s, y'all. So
I was about to say, this is in the 80s with, you know, ultrasound, new technology, and our mother is 5'1.5".
Yep. So they thought that we were conjoined twins, and they didn't know until near the much, much later months. Mama could tell you, but I can't. Much later months that we were indeed two separate individuals.
I'd love to bring her on the show at one point, but I don't want her to cry.
Bless her heart. She loves us so much.
She does. We love her too.
We are very well loved by both our parents. We are super blessed. So, conjoined twins are physically connected. Doctors aren't sure what causes it, though. Some say the egg doesn't completely split. Some say they merge after they split.
I could see that.
Yeah. The locations of the fusions vary, but they're commonly in the chest and torso, and they share one vital organ. Most die shortly after birth. Those that do survive can be separated in most cases.
Yeah, I know that there were cases of conjoined twins. I mean, the ones from North Carolina, or the ones that settled in North Carolina, the original, what they would call, quote, Siamese twins, we don't use that phrase, but they were connected by a simple sliver of tendinous tissue at their, like, hip region or the lower torso area.
Yeah.
And obviously that is something that could have been, you know, removed. And they had the opportunity to be removed, and they chose not to.
The fact that they were born naturally is phenomenal.
It absolutely is, thinking about it right now, especially in the time, because we're talking the 1800s.
Yeah, so they had to have been born naturally.
Yeah.
You know, so we don't know much about them, or it's not something we're going to discuss right
Chang
now.
and Yang, that's their names.
Yep.
Chang and Yang Bunker. Yep.
Yeah, they
married different women.
Had children.
Yep. Settled in North Carolina, raised all their kids, died of old age. Obviously, shortly after each other, because when you're conjoined, you know, when one goes, typically the other one goes.
That's not even uncommon with twins who aren't conjoined.
Yeah, no, so we'll get into that in another episode, unless you were going to get into some of it here.
Nope.
Yeah, it's really not uncommon, unless one twin is, you know, taken by force early. Typically, twins do die within hours to days of each other.
Yep. And we're okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, preferably if it were to occur, you know, much later in life.
Please.
If you happen to pass tomorrow, I'm probably, I don't know, might suck a lot, but I'm not really ready to go quite yet.
Not ready to go. Me neither. Not ready.
Okay, good. I wanted to make sure we were in agreement with that. But now, when we're elderly, yeah, I mean,
yeah, man. Absolutely, but I'm not ready yet. I've got so much life to live and so much life to do. We are on season 1.
So much life to do. We're on season 1.
We are on season 1.
Podcast to do. Yeah.
Yep. We have podcasts
to do.
I got a mortgage to pay. I've got dogs to raise. We are not done yet.
Yeah.
So parasitic twins.
Ooh, this one's got to be interesting.
Are conjoined twins with the smaller one dependent on the other for survival. The smaller twin is not fully formed and may or may not have vital organs such as a heart or a brain. They can appear as a lump or a random body part on the like a non-functional head on the larger twin. Subsets include fetus in fetu, which is a parasitic twin that develops inside the larger twin, inside a so they form inside the larger twin. And a cardiac, I believe is how they say it, and a cardiac twin is twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome, which occurs when one identical twin gets too much blood flow while the other doesn't get enough from the placenta.
Oh.
Yeah, so severe forms of this is when the smaller twin is without vital organs and is just a torso without limbs and is malformed.
Ew.
Yeah, so I actually taught a little segment when I was teaching on twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome. And this is something that they were worried about with Raquel and I when we were in utero. Because when this happens, one twin is getting way too much blood flow. And they're developing like, oh, healthy, strong baby. And then you got this little twin over here that's like, I'm not getting anything. I'm dying. So.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
But
So-
you can see it in the ultrasounds because, again, like my cord was huge compared to Raven's cord.
Luckily, I was a tough cookie and I hung in there.
You wouldn't know it. I mean, when we were born, I was, 19 inches and you were 18
We were
inches? Or
pretty
something
long
like that.
babies.
Yeah. But, you wouldn't know now that you were 4 pounds, 5 ounces when you were born.
No, we definitely do not look like we were preemies, but the majority of twins are preemies.
Oh, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much stress on the mother having 2 or more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever heard. No, actually, I did. I know one set of twins that were actually born late.
Were they C-section?
Yes.
Yes.
And it's because their mother had an abnormality where she could not give birth naturally. And she never went into labor because they were preventing it from occurring in the hospital to try and give them more time. So it wasn't natural in any way. But they wanted to give them as much time to develop as possible before they did a C-section. But, I mean, I've never heard of... I'm sure there are, but most twins pop out early.
Yes, most twins do. Semi-identical twins are
interesting.
2 separate sperm that fertilize a single egg.
What?
Yep. So to survive, that egg must split in 2, with both halves having the same exact amount of chromosomes. Yeah, absorb that one for a second. So 2 separate sperm fertilize a single egg. The egg has to split perfectly in half with the same amount of chromosomes. It is so rare there's only been 2 reported cases.
Can you imagine what their DNA panel looks like?
Fascinating.
I mean, it must be, but so many things have to go exactly right in that splitting.
Yeah, I mean, there's people don't. It is sad that miscarriages occur, but a lot of people don't understand that the creation of life is its own creation of a universe. It is just absolutely fascinating how things have to come so perfectly together.
Oh, there
for
are
it to
so
occur.
many variables. It's kind of like it's like building a turbine for a nuclear reactor. If one small thing is out of place, the entire thing goes off kilter and falls apart.
Exactly. I mean,
You've got to have everything just right.
Everything is incredible. So chance pregnancies, I mean, if you look at how pregnancy occurs in the first place, when a woman ovulates, that egg is there for 24 to 36 hours. And sperm can survive inside of a female's body for 4 to 5 days.
Oh, God, Raven.
Hey, I'm just saying. So everything has to align just perfectly.
Yeah,
For those things
really
to occur.
does.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then when miscarriages happen, so Raquel and I have often used the identification of guinea pigs because guinea pigs have a lot of miscarriages, and when they don't, they will eat their young. And people are like, this is disgusting, but they're doing it because they identify something about that baby guinea pig that means it won't survive.
Yeah.
So it's their way of euthanizing, which is if you look at it from a scientific standpoint, is just incredible they can identify that in the first place.
It makes sense, though.
Yep. So miscarriages occur because there's something just not quite right for birth.
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything from the implantation to the cell division to something's wrong with the site that, the egg tried to implant on. And then you've got cases where ectopic pregnancies where you get a fertilized egg in the fallopian tubes, which is a
implants in the fallopian tubes.
Yeah, it's a true medical emergency because it starts to grow in an area that it doesn't have the space to grow in, and it could be lethal. It will be lethal if it's not removed.
It will be lethal.
It's amazing that even occurs.
Yeah, there are some cases where they're able to remove the ovum or the zygote. They're able to remove the zygote from the fallopian tube and implant it in the uterus, but the majority of cases they don't do that. So fertilization occurs, which, we know this, but we'll review it. The fertilization occurs in the fallopian tubes, travels into the uterus, and implants.
A lot of people probably don't know that, Raven.
Well, there you go. So so it travels into the uterus and implants. So conditions have to be perfect because the uterus can become acidic the closer it gets to menstruation. Because it's ready to everything, like if you don't, when you ovulate to actually having fertilization to implantation, you've got like a good 5-day window, if even.
It's such a small window.
And
everything's got to line up. I'm surprised that we're even a species anymore.
It's fascinating. I mean, because the human race, fertilization is not the same in a lot of animals as it is with humans. It is so specific in humans. Mm-hmm. And the fact that we develop into, bipedal, intelligent individuals,
relatively, most of the time.
Yeah. Well, we have conscious thought, and, conscious thought comes from...
We have sentience.
Yeah, and conscious thought where it happens in our brains. The way conscious thought happens in your brain, in the particular activating system, and, how you have the ability to be conscious and develop personalities through the bigger part of your brain is just... We can get into a whole different podcast about that.
This has nothing to do with fertilization, although I'd much rather hear about that than fertilization. In case anybody knows this about Raven and I or not, we're not having children, and we don't have children.
Nope.
And I don't really care much about reproductive... I don't care about the biology of reproductive systems. I don't care about...
It's medicine and science, and it fascinates me.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I just had my uterus removed. Like, none of this really matters to me. But learning about twins regarding this, it is fascinating too. Again, that we even exist right now is amazing to me.
Yeah, you have to understand the biological process to understand how how zygotes split, and or how two zygotes happen at the same time or whatnot, and that leads perfectly into boy-girl monozygotic identical twins.
I'm super interested in it. I've never heard of this.
Yeah, boy-girl monozygotic. So monozygotic is identical. It is extremely rare to have boy-girl monozygotic twins.
Are they true boy-girl?
Oh, yes. They begin as identical males because males have XY chromosomes, whereas females have XX chromosomes, right?
Makes us special.
We rock. So, very soon after the egg splits, a genetic mutation called Turner syndrome causes one twin to lose a Y chromosome. And I've actually met a few people with Turner syndrome, but I've never met a set of twins with one of them having Turner syndrome. So, Turner syndrome is you lose your Y chromosome.
Okay, so now we have an XO.
Yep, now you have an XO. So, as there's only an X chromosome now present, also called an XO, that twin will appear as female.
Oh.
Yep. They have developmental difficulties at birth and fertility problems later in life. So that makes them boy-girl monozygotic identical twins.
Yeah, I mean, we know people with Turner syndrome, awesome people. They struggle with a lot, but they don't. You're not looking at a long life here. They have unfortunately, they have a lot of issues. Modern medicine helps, but most people with Turner syndrome don't live, 30 years? No,
I actually know. We know one person that we share. Excuse me.
We know by accident. She added me on Facebook.
Yep. We know one person and she is like one of the coolest people on the face of the planet.
On my Facebook.
If you, my dear, are listening to us, you know who you are. You are so cool.
Shout out to you, Sonia.
Exactly. So she's just a cool person, and she could explain Turner syndrome, of course, in much more depth than we do. But yeah, so that's how boy-girl monozygotic twins are.
That's got to be so incredibly rare. I mean,
it's so rare that I can't even find how many cases were reported of it.
Okay, so like back to the semi-identical where there's 2 or 3 or maybe they're just unreported in some cases. I'm sure that it'll be like, oh yeah, the daughter does have Turner syndrome, because Turner syndrome does have a very clear presentation. But the boy, they don't really talk about it, or the boy doesn't make it, or the girl doesn't make it, and they never even bother. They call it a twinless twin issue.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so once we go through these last 2 twins, we will address the twinless twin thing. Right. So the next one is the superfetation twins. Superfetation twins, yes. And these are twins that are conceived at different times. So they're fraternal. And it's 2 eggs that are conceived at different times.
So, like, one, we'll say, like, gets fertilized on day 1, and then another one gets fertilized on day 4?
Yes, which may be from the same sex act or a different sex act.
Gotcha. Oh, this is how you ended up talking about earlier about the 2 different fathers.
Oh, no, I lied. That's superfecundation twins. These are just twins that are conceived at different times. So, same sex act, 2 separate times. You're like one on day, which is what I was talking about, how long sperm can live inside a woman.
Okay, gotcha.
And that's how that works. Yep.
How do they even know?
I don't know.
I'm gonna have to Google this.
I think it has to do with the developmental, the development of the ova.
Oh, the time.
Yep. So you know how they measure how long you've been pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
They might be like, this twin is, and this twin is. So maybe, and it's very, very rare. Like,
or is this a case where one is conceived 1 month and then that she happens to ovulate again, and the next month there's another conception?
That's superfecundation twins.
Oh, look at me thinking ahead. All right.
Yep. Those twins are from 2 different sex acts.
Oh.
There are 2 forms of it. Homopaternal, which is same father, 2 different acts. And then heteropaternal, which is 2 different acts, possibly 2 different fathers.
Ooh, hinky.
Yeah. So.
Hey, people, y'all do what you want to do. I don't care. No judgment here.
Yeah, just know this stuff's possible.
It is.
And you could get pregnant while you are pregnant.
I know that it's happened.
There was a recent case in England that it occurred.
Wow.
And there was a boy and a girl, and they were born healthy, but the girl was conceived after the boy.
Wow.
Yep.
Human body, man.
Yep. So
that was... I learned some things. Learned some things about some twins that I didn't know about. Now, I know that for fetus and feto, they typically present as a tumor or something that needs to get removed.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people don't even know that they have the body of their twin in them until they go in for surgery to have it removed, and they realize that this tumor has, teeth and hair and bone structure.
Yeah, and that's
and
when
they test it.
Yep, and there's been documentation of people who have had teeth and tumors and whatnot, and it's like, wait a minute, y'all, that was a twin. That had to have been a twin.
Yeah.
Randomly develop an eyeball and teeth in a tumor is probably...
In an abdominal tumor.
Yeah, it's probably a twin.
Yeah, I know. If you read, the stories from, Ripley's Believe It or Not, back in the day, they were like, they had this abnormal tumor that had grown its own teeth and its own hair and its own... And I remember back then I was like... And I was a kid, you and I were like, that's a twin. And now they come back and they go, oh, yeah, that was a twin. That wasn't, a tumor that had its own, like was gonna make it. Yeah, that doesn't make
The
sense.
animal world is incredible. I mean,
biology itself is
it's
phenomenal.
just absolutely the fact that, you know, I always say that in my profession we eat the young.
Oh my goodness! Although I've been in your profession, I did your profession for 8 years.
Yep.
And like on the street full time.
Yep, and we do. We try not to foster that type of mentality now, but you know, back when Raquel and I started in what I do, we eat our young. We try to push out the weak, and that's exactly what happens in the animal world in biology. Just like with these parasitic twins, these conjoined twins, you know, twinless twins occur because one is stronger than the other.
Yeah, it's 100%. Nature will always find a way. I know that when I was in school the second time, starting on my second degree, we had to take a series of classes, and you would take biology, chemistry, and physics. And I remember being in the biology classes, we're college level biology, and the professor was like, the way they've got the system set up is wrong. You really need to take chemistry and physics before you take biology, because you cannot even begin to understand biology until you understand the physical, the physics, the mathematics around what occurs and the chemistry that causes it to happen, because all of that relates into biology. And I know that you've learned it, you know, in what you do for a living. You can't understand a kidney at all unless you understand physics and chemistry.
You are not
understand,
wrong.
Yeah, you will not understand how that tubule uses sodium and water and potassium.
God forbid you get into action potential and sodium, potassium.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just...
You need to understand the chemistry
Cardiac action potential?
Yep. And that's physics and chemistry. And I remember being in that biology class, listening to this, knowing, you know, I'd already had a career before that, and so I knew a lot of what I was seeing, but I didn't understand it. And so looking back at it now, when I took much higher level biology courses in my undergraduate degree, after having taken advanced chemistry courses and physics classes, I understood that biology class so much better because I'd had these foundation sciences. But when you're in school, they don't do it. They don't teach you that way. They start you with biology because for some reason it's more relatable because we're soft and squishy, and physics is scary, and chemistry is scary, which I get it. I do get it, but it makes more sense to have those foundation sciences first so that you can truly wrap your brain around what you're looking at when you're looking at those cells that they've written out, or you're dissecting that pig in class. Or
yeah, I really wish that we would have in our degree program, in the first degree Raquel got, we would have done biology before we did anatomy and physiology.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because I look back on it now, and as an instructor now, I see the benefit of having biology before
absolutely.
You do A&P, which, you know, you need to have chemistry before you do biology, before you do A&P, instead of having chemistry before you do A&P. It doesn't make sense.
No, I remember when I had an advanced anatomy and a graduate level advanced anatomy and physiology class in college this past time, and I gave you all of my notes because I was like, these will help you when you're teaching and when you're putting together your PowerPoint stuff, because it's stuff you didn't get in school that would have benefited you, because these are pre-med classes, would have benefited you tremendously, and it made sense. You know, I sent you so many things that you used to teach your students.
Yep. I mean, there's so much out there, and, you know, getting back to the twin thing, the fact that, yeah, you and I have some genetic issues, but...
Well, who doesn't? I mean, if you don't think you do, you do.
You do. You got genetic issues. We're all mutants. Raquel and I just know we're mutants.
Yep.
But...
Mutant and proud.
Yep. I mean, not only are we twins, we also have this genetic mutation on top of having this genetic mutation.
Yep. And we have a high factor 8.
Yep. We have
because you found out
hypercoagulability.
yours. Yep. And then I found out about mine, obviously. And your numbers are higher than mine, but that doesn't mean mine won't be higher later.
Yeah, we're catching these things early so we can treat them now so we don't have other issues later on. But
If
a
I could
lot of
just lay
people,
off the carbohydrates.
it'd be interesting to talk to, I know, right? It'd be interesting to talk to other twins and find out if their medical conditions are similar to ours. Do they have genetic mutations? Do they have, what type of twin they are? Do they know what type of twin they are? Raquel and I have been a part of a twin study since we were born called Twins Matter at the University of Virginia. I believe it's University of Virginia.
It is. It's the Mid-Atlantic Twin Study in the University of Virginia. Yep.
And it's still ongoing.
It is.
And we are 34. And we have been a part of this for a long time. And I actually still get the little pamphlets for it. And
I do too.
they have a recent one that came out for twins that have had COVID. One twin that's had COVID and one that hasn't had COVID. And I don't know who got in that study. I thought about it, and then it kind of went to the wayside because I had a lot of stuff going on because, after I had COVID, I had a lot going on. So, yeah, I ended up with COVID, and Raquel did not end up with COVID.
But I will say that my job is a work-from-home position, and Raven's is not. She is thumping the streets, getting COVID. And I get to live happy and healthy and sound in my home and just get concerned that someone's going to spit on her wrong.
I got COVID.
She got COVID.
And, it was interesting because when I got COVID, I was like, I got the sniffles and I didn't feel good one weekend, and it was the day after our birthday.
Okay, and let's just say that we did the wrong thing, because even though we're in each other's bubble, I didn't keep you tight in my bubble because of what you did for a living through COVID. So even when we saw each other, we would wear masks. We wouldn't sit very close. We'd sit distance apart. But for our birthday, we didn't, because our mom and dad wanted to see us, and we wanted to see them, and our birthday's in November, so, COVID really hit everyone in March, and we hadn't really seen anyone
especially with what I do for a living. I stayed away from everybody.
Yep. So we all kind of broke. And I know that everybody's got their breaking point, and we are by no way saints. So we broke and we saw each other. So I saw her, and I was in close contact with her. I think we actually did hug, because I know we took a picture together.
Yeah, there's one on Facebook. And we so it was a day after our birthday. So I actually had my birthday off, and Raquel had our birthday off. And so we had a family dinner,
and she was the walking well at this time.
I was definitely Typhoid Mary, and I started feeling sick the very next day,
not like
very
Typhoid
next
Mary.
day. Yeah, I wasn't ground zero, but
Typhoid Mary never got sick. That was the problem. She got put on an island by herself. If y'all don't know about Typhoid Mary, she was put on an island by herself because she couldn't catch typhoid, but she was a carrier. So, but Raven was a carrier and also caught it.
I got sick, and
she got so sick.
Yeah, I had it, and I started getting sick. But I never got a fever, not once. I don't develop fever really since I had the stroke. I've only had fever like 3 times since I had my stroke.
It's funny because I used to be that way too.
You get fevers all the time.
But now, ever since I had the flu in 2016, I get fevers now for everything, and especially since I've had my hysterectomy.
Yeah, I don't develop fever, so, I worked all weekend wearing a mask because I didn't have a fever. And
that's protocol.
Per protocol was told I did everything that I was supposed to do. And all I had was it just seemed like a cold. I had the sniffles, my throat was a little scratchy, and I was coughing, but it wasn't really productive. And Raquel knew, she knew immediately. She's like, "You have COVID." And this had been I had been sick on and off all year. I'd been put out of work 3 times because they thought I had strep or the flu or COVID. And I never had it, but this is the first time. It was less significant than any of the other ones I had. And Raquel was
all the other times, I was like, "You don't have COVID," but this one, I was like, "You've got COVID."
And Raquel's like, "You got COVID."
this isn't the first time, not to get into the supernatural stuff, but this isn't the first time that I've pinpointed something that could be potentially life-threatening for you that,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
Raquel picked up on, so, touching on that a little bit. So I had COVID. Raquel said I had COVID. Didn't believe her. Got tested. Lost my sense of smell. And called Raquel first thing. Didn't even have the results yet. And she's like, you got COVID. And I was like, no.
And she was, oh my gosh, it was so funny for me that she was like so petrified and paranoid about it and just stressing. And then I was like, you've got it. Like, don't worry about it. Just, stay healthy as you can, drink the fluids, go rest, stop worrying. And then she had the audacity to call me at what was it, 2 a.m. when your results came in on CVS. It was like, I've got COVID. And you sent me the screenshot of it saying positive, and I was like, damn it, I already know. You've got it.
Oh my God, I said the worst part of having COVID was not just having COVID, it was wondering whether I'd spread it to the people that I love.
Right. And you were so paranoid about that.
I was
we
so
skipped
paranoid.
Thanksgiving that year, and I went and got tested immediately. As soon as I thought she had it, I went and got tested.
And damn it, our parents were like, nope, it happens, it happens.
They didn't want to get their noses swabbed, but Jeff and I did.
Yeah.
And so we got tested, and then our results came back negative. And I thought that you would, cry with relief. I think you did cry.
I was so sick, but it went by pretty quick because I was waiting for the results of Raquel and Jeff, and I was just, oh my God, I was so upset. And because if I'd have gave them COVID and they'd have died, or they'd been on a ventilator and they'd have got brain damage, I don't know what I would do. So all this stuff was going through my head, and I was resting, I was doing all the things. I was playing Final Fantasy because, I couldn't do much else. I was coughing, sniffing. You
were so sick, though.
So sick. Trying to sleep, couldn't breathe.
We were dropping packages off at your door. Mom was bringing you stuff.
Ended up with double pneumonia.
Yeah. But it turned out that you didn't give it to anyone.
I didn't give it to anyone, which is absolutely remarkable because...
Right. Because it could have been a super spreader event at our household.
Yep. And I didn't give it to anybody, which is curious. So...
Isn't it?
Yep. But Raquel knew it. Raquel knew I had COVID. Just like Raquel knew when I was having my pulmonary embolisms.
How do you guess?
She knew when I was having a stroke.
That was pretty easy to tell. I don't feel like I'm a magician for that one, Raven. Half your face wasn't working.
I don't remember that.
We'll cover that in another episode.
Yeah.
The pulmonary embolus thing, though, is special. We'll leave that.
We'll also cover that, But so
yeah, that was So with you having these issues with COVID. And you still got your vaccine. You got vaccinated in January or December? December.
I got vaccinated December 23rd.
Yes.
And I got the second one, December 22nd, and I got the second one January 13th. I got them. I came back to work December 9th. And I went and got my vaccine as soon as it was offered. Then afterwards, he said, you're not supposed to get your vaccine until, 1 month or 3 months after you've had COVID. And I'm like, well, screw y'all, because I've already done it. It's too late, and give me the second one.
So for your vaccine, the first one didn't affect you that bad, did it?
No, it was weird because when I got the vaccine, I had this, and my partner did too. We got super dizzy. Whoa, when I was having another stroke, the world spun. I had to sit down. He did too. We both had this weird taste in our mouth.
You got Pfizer.
Yeah, we got Pfizer. And within 5 minutes, it was gone. And I was fine. I just had a sore arm. And in that arm that I had the COVID vaccine, I had a flare-up of my arthritis.
Oh, yeah, you lucky duck.
Yeah, but it was just in that arm. And that spot stayed sore for 2 weeks. It was like having a tetanus shot.
So by the time that one healed up, it was time to get your second dose.
It was time to get my second dose. And I did. And that's the one that hit me. Yeah. So, of course, they said having COVID, it would be worse for you when you got your vaccine. But it wasn't. I was uncomfortable. I was really tired. I'm used to being tired anyway because stroke gives you neurofatigue. Mm-hmm. And then I take all these medications for bipolar, so I'm always tired. But I was a little bit more on the really, really tired side. So I slept for a day, and then I was fine.
I remember, you did all these things before me. Mm-hmm. So I was able to watch and see, what it would be like for me if I got COVID and if, when I got my vaccine and all that. And in your case, I also thought, okay, there is an environmental component here because I have not or had not been out in the world since March 14th, 2020 was the last time I'd really gone out into the world before COVID hit. And I had been secluded in my home. My husband was the only person that went out and came back into the house. So I also was concerned that if I got it, our immune systems are bad anyway. Mine's really bad. And you catch everything out in the field anyway. You were always sick, but you stayed out in it. I stopped. After I graduated from college this last time, I stopped going out, into the world, A, because COVID hit, and B, because my immune system is garbage. And I'm afraid if I got COVID this time, even after you, I may not fare even as well as you did because
COVID hits everybody so differently.
I know, and and even with twins, there's no way to know if it affects you in one way that it's going to affect me that way. I just saw the way that it hit you. I was like, oh, this will not be good.
I know, right? It was tough. Like that bilateral pneumonia I had was rough. My lungs are still not the same.
You sounded like a wet seal when you barked. Like seals have a dry bark, but your bark was not. Yeah. Dry. It was like congested and full. Like you'd swallowed a bunch of those, those things that people put their bamboo in, the jelly balls?
Yeah, like the boba tea ball types things.
Yeah, it's like you swallowed a bunch of those and were trying to cough.
It was really like when I would breathe out, I would have this raspy, weird crackle.
Yeah.
And I still kind of have that, and that's from having COVID lung. But, it's interesting to see. I would like to talk to other twins, one that's had COVID, one that hasn't, or how they both had COVID, or even not even just COVID. Twins who get the flu, twins who have cancers. How because if you look at our medications, for instance, I don't do well on SSRIs for my mental conditions. SSRIs are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors.
Prozac, Zoloft, Lexapro.
Yep. I can't take them. They don't work for me, or they make me just super emotional. They make me super emotional. I don't feel anything at all.
And I'm on 10 milligrams of Prozac a day.
Yep. But I take mood stabilizers. I take Lamictal. So
that doesn't work. That wouldn't work for me. I know that wouldn't work for me.
So I wonder if the reason that these things work is not because of my stroke. I was taking this stuff before my stroke.
Yeah.
If it's because I had a slight anoxic brain deficit when I was born.
Raven was born not breathing.
Yep. So anoxic brain injuries or deficits happen when you don't have enough oxygen flow to your brain.
Right.
Hypoxic brain injury, anoxic brain injury. So I'm wondering if that potentially that changed the chemical makeup in my brain.
If you're looking at us as twins and you're thinking that our biology is identical, if you take out the natural component of growing, because the environmental aspects will affect how organisms grow. That's just how it is. But if you take all that out of the equation and you compare my brain to your brain, if you don't consider in the anoxic brain injury, what else is there? I fell on my head just as much as a child as you did.
Yeah, it's interesting, and that's why I bring that up, because it would be interesting to talk to other twins, and if they're willing to discuss, their medical conditions and their mental health, what, twins are like who we're attracted to. What medications we take, what our favorite colors are. Like Raquel's favorite color is mint green.
And Raven's is pink.
I love me some pink. So, and I'm attracted to mint green, but...
And I'm attracted to pink. The wall behind me is pink if you look on our website, but,
Yeah. So, it's but I do not like Indian food.
Oh, my gosh. I could just subsist off of tikka masala and biryani for the rest of my life.
Yeah, those words mean nothing to me except ick.
Every time I'm cooking curry, Raven's like, you cooking curry? And I love curry.
I haven't tried it since I had COVID.
Oh, well, you can't taste anything now, so you might dig it.
I have a weird sense of taste now. But
I should make you some curry.
Yeah, but pre-COVID, Raven couldn't stand Indian. Still can't stand Indian as far as I know. I had Mediterranean a couple of weeks ago, and it was actually really good. And I don't usually dig Mediterranean, but I was having a craving for some falafel.
See, you love things that I don't like. You like broccoli.
I love broccoli.
I would rather lick a metallic rock out of an oil pan than eat broccly.
But we both hate celery.
Oh my God.
It's the ambrosia of the devil.
We went out to eat for the first time the other night since COVID started, and these people put celery salt in their coleslaw.
Ugh.
And I know, and I love coleslaw, and you don't expect it to have celery salt in it. And if you're one of these people,
how dare you?
Yeah, how dare you do that? The audacity, because you don't expect it, so you don't want that type. I can expect an onion, sometimes a raisin. It could be sweet or salty. You know, these are expected variations in coleslaw. Mm-hmm. But not celery. Celery is not an expected variation in coleslaw. And this one had celery salt in it. And I took one bite and spit it out.
Ain't doing it.
And then you know what I did? I went and tasted it again just to be sure in a different section that it didn't touch something else. And it was still celery.
Yep. So we both don't like celery and dill.
Oh, dill can go. I couldn't be Russian.
I can't stand cilantro.
I've gotten used to it because it is in so many Indian dishes and Mediterranean dishes that I love so much that it tastes like soap, but I'll just deal with it. But when I make falafel...
Cilantro is a garnish.
Yeah, see, I don't put cilantro in your falafel because you don't like it.
I don't like cilantro, dill, or celery. I don't care for curry, and curry is big in Indian and Japanese types of food. Mm-hmm.
But curry is... I could do a whole episode on curry. Curry it's more of a feeling than a spice.
That's weird and no.
There's different types of areas have different types of, quote, curry. So I really think I could find a, quote, curry that you would love. You're not a big fan of turmeric. And we're dissecting this now, you know, that I love it so much as she hates it.
Can't stand it.
And I'm like, I think it's just this blend of these particular southern Indian spices that you don't like, but I think that I actually really think you would love this yellow curry.
We will. I will try, and then in another twin episode, I will explain why I still don't like curry. But I will give it a shot.
Trying to grow. But I did want to mention before we sign off that on August 6th through the 8th of 2021, there will be the Twins Day Festival this year in Twinsburg, Ohio, OH. We have never gone because Raven and I don't do hokey stuff like that. But
we might go and do an episode.
Right. So I think it might be something that we might think about maybe is for the first time doing the Twins Day thing in Twinsburg. I don't know. I was just tossing it out there if anybody is interested in looking it up. It's a festival full of folks like us, twins. So special. But after this episode, you see kind of why. The fact that all you singles out there, you know, exist is amazing. But the fact that we doubles or triples or quadruples or so on and so forth exist is even, you know, more fascinating by the, you know, multiplicatively. It's getting late.
And in the spirit of multiplicability, we are going to say goodbye, and we will see you in the next episode.
Yes. Thank you all for listening.
Bye.
Today's episode was written by Raven Hutto. Sound editing and mixing by Raven Hutto. Our theme song was composed by Steve Brendley. Today's sources can be found on our Facebook and Instagram at Twins Discuss Podcast.